There are some big speed bumps in the big, beautiful bill. We are talking with a congressman who voted for it to see how much he's willing to bend when it comes back from the Senate eventually. Elon Musk does not like this bill. How much does his criticism matter when it comes to the Republicans and his relationship with the president? And in Harrisburg, don't sleep on the Sleep Act. How one lawmaker wants to put the brakes on loud cars. All that and so much more next on Face the State.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Let's get started, everybody. The battles have been taking place over President Trump's huge spending bill. The criticism is the spending, especially when some Senate Republicans get involved and even Elon Musk. Now, it barely passed the House. We have a Republican who voted against it initially in committee before eventually passing it and getting it through by one vote. It is Lancaster County Congressman Lloyd Smucker. Welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Joel.
All right, so we know it did pass the House, barely. It got through. This week, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been very publicly feuding about all this. Trump says this is a great bill, has to get through. This is what people voted for. Musk and some others say the spending is the big problem. So, sometimes I'll default to the bipartisan Congressional Budget Office. It says the bill would increase deficits by $2.4 trillion over 10 years and leave more than 10 million people without health insurance. What do you say when you hear those numbers come in from the CBO?
Well, let's go back to what this bill was about. It was about ensuring that we extend the tax cuts, the tax rates that have existed since we passed them in 2017. If we do not extend those rates by the end of this year, you will see a massive tax increase for every American household, for every small business. In fact, it would be the largest tax increase in our history. So that's number one. And then secondly, it provides additional funding to secure the border, which is a key component of the mandate that the American people gave us in this last November election. It ensures our military has the equipment and tools to ensure Americans' safety, and it would unleash American energy. That's the big pieces. There's a lot of other great things in this bill. And so in terms of what Musk is talking about, I really don't exactly understand what he is saying, because the key component, as I mentioned, of this bill is tax cuts. There's not a lot of spending in this bill. In fact, we're providing spending relief. One of my requirements to support this bill was to ensure that it does not add to the debt, and it will not, and I'll explain that. But a part of that was that we would have $1.7 trillion, the highest ever for a reconciliation bill, in reduction in spending over the next 10 years.
So how does the CBO get it so wrong then, if their numbers are drastically different from what you're saying? Because everything you're saying, I think, is the kind of stuff people do think that they voted for. But then when they hear that this is not going to turn out that way, it starts turning them off.
CBO looks at this from a static perspective. They do not consider the growth that we will see from having good tax policy in place, which will be similar to what we saw after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. The Budget Committee, when we put together the resolution for the bill, assumed that we would have less growth, a very conservative number, 2.6% growth on average over the next 10 years, which is less than we saw the next few years after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If we achieve that number, we will more than pay for this bill. In fact, we will reduce the debt going forward.
What's the number you're looking at, 3 or 3.5?
I'm sorry?
What do we need then, 3 or 3.5? Like, how big will we need?
$2.5 trillion. We'll cover $2.5 trillion in costs due to the tax cuts with additional growth. That's what we've assumed in our bill. I'm confident we're going to get that. We're going to get it through the tax policy. We're going to get it through the deregulation, the energy policy that are included in this bill. We're going to see strong economic growth, much higher than what CBO is projecting. And that's based on what we've seen after we put these tax rates in in effect in the first
All right,
place.
so growth is definitely a big piece of that, and I hear how you're a little more optimistic than they are, and that would make up some of the difference. But you know, some of your Republican colleagues, you have Josh Hawley, you have some others, they're very concerned about the Medicaid cuts, and that's the other part of what the CBO was looking at, how many people would lose health care coverage because of some things that people do agree on. It's regulations, it's work things like that. So how do you get those folks on board who are so concerned about how many people would be, off of Medicaid and things like that?
Well, our Energy and Commerce Committee did a very good job of ensuring that we are looking at ways to reduce the waste and fraud in these programs. Number one, we want Medicaid to be available to those who need it, to the vulnerable. Every member of Congress wants to ensure that continues. It should not be available for people who are here in our country illegally. That saves a lot of money. It should not be available if someone is able to work and they choose not to work by choice. That will save a lot of money because we've added work requirements into our Medicaid program with this bill and into the SNAP program. Just those two changes. There's several other changes as well, but just those two will change billions of dollars. Then remember something else. Medicaid at this point is expected to grow to over $1 trillion. Currently, the federal government is reimbursing states about $660 billion annually. That is projected to grow to $1 trillion in the next 10 years. We're just simply reducing that growth number. We're not cutting Medicaid at all. We are ensuring that we're rooting out the waste and fraud. We're rooting out Medicaid that is going to people who shouldn't be getting it, that the American people agree with. Every dollar that we save there ensures that Medicaid will stay structurally sound to really provide for those who are vulnerable and who
All right,
need
we'll
it.
see if they can hash it out. Got less than a minute left here. If they change a lot in terms of the Senate, I mean, can you still vote for this? Because overall, it would still be getting through.
I've made it very clear from the beginning, I want this bill to be paid for. We cannot add to the debt with this bill. There's a group of 30 or 40 who have said we have to have the savings of at least 1.6 trillion in the bill. That's currently in the bill. That's a framework that we worked very hard in the House to achieve. It's got to come back within that framework. A deviation from that would mean that there's a lot of folks on our side who cannot vote for the bill.
Okay.
But I don't think that'll happen. The Senate will maybe improve. Maybe they'll even find more savings in this bill. They'll find areas to change it, but I think they'll stay within that framework. And if they do so, I think they will. I think they'll have this done in the next few weeks, and hopefully we have this to the president's desk by July 4th.
Okay, we shall see. Thanks for making it clear where your side's coming from on some of this stuff. We want to cut through the noise, and you're helping us do that. Congressman Lloyd Smucker, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, have you ever been woken up by this sound? And sometimes it's even louder, right? Yeah, coming up, we're talking to a lawmaker who has a plan to get that out of there and help you get some sleep. And it's just one of the things we're talking about. Stick around. Face the State continues. My next guest has a plan to help people living in PA cities in particular sleep better. Let's check out his bedside manner. It's a Democrat from Philadelphia, Jared Solomon. How are you doing today?
Joel, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
These are one of those topics that people can all go, yeah, that is annoying. What can we do about that? It's called the SLEEP Act. It's actually an acronym, Stop Loud, Excessive Exhaust Pollution Act. It would ban the sale of aftermarket exhaust and muffler systems, the ones that actually purposefully make those vehicles louder, kind of obnoxious, some would say. Others probably kind of like that you can modify your vehicle and make it sound a little bit different. What are we doing about this? What do you think?
Exactly, Joel. So let me kind of paint the picture. You're in your home, as my wife and I typically are on a work night with our 3-year-old daughter. We're ready to go to sleep. It's 9:30, 10. Everything is settling down. It's nice and quiet. We're transitioning to our evening, preparing for the next day. And all of a sudden, you hear 8 to 10 to 15 dirt bikes who are going back and forth up and down your streets, sometimes joined by illegal ATVs. So what? My daughter gets up, my wife gets up, I'm up. pets are up, dogs are barking.
Yep.
This is a losing scenario for everyone. And then you're grumpy the next day. We need to do something about it. And this basically puts out a clear message to manufacturers. You're not going to legally manufacture these modified mufflers, to those that are inspecting vehicles to look for them, and then to law enforcement on the ground. We want to provide some training so that you know what to look for.
Okay.
This is a winning scenario to make sure that we all get our rest and are more productive during the day.
All right. So the question is enforcement. I think you dealt with some of that already. The other question is, what if you already have one of these and you love it and your friends love it and, you just want to do this? Maybe just not do it at those same times? What are you thinking?
Sure. So we are focused on moving forward, but also we're thinking about the left and right limits of the bill. Maybe really focusing in on urban centers, cities throughout our Commonwealth. Because if you have, like on my block, you have 58, 60 homes on a block, you're really feeling that. In some places in rural Pennsylvania where you're more spread out, maybe not as much. So we are really want to make sure that this is a product that provides those unique solutions for all parts of the Commonwealth.
How is there decibel meters? Or is it just kind of, you can't have anything that's a modification, or some, but not too much? How do you actually measure what is too much?
So right now, the bill talks about sound that law enforcement would hear 200 feet from where they are.
Okay.
Really though, Joel, and I think if the two of us were in your studio or we were walking in downtown Harrisburg, we would know it when we heard it. You would say, yeah, that's really annoying. They should not be doing that. That is annoying me. It's annoying everyone else.
You can't have a conversation with the person next to you. Yeah, that's probably one of those things, right?
Exactly.
All right. Give me a quick synopsis on how much support do you have? How's it looking?
I've actually gotten a lot of support in the legislature because the minute I talk about this quality of life issue, people say, yeah, I've been out on my lawn on a Saturday, Sunday trying to enjoy my property, and I'm barbecuing, and I'm having to hear this up and down my street for hours. So support's building, and we're going to continue to work it.
Two more things I want to get to quickly here. We're starting to run out of time. It's the term limits for members of Congress, Supreme Court justice. What is the limit you support?
We're just trying to get a constitutional convention to begin this conversation in Congress. Just to take a quick step back, people are thirsting, yearning for government that works and delivers. Key to that, Joel, is you need government that starts with itself, reforms itself, so that we better deliver for the needs of people on the ground in our 67 counties and throughout our nation. Reform begins at home. This is an attempt to get right at that.
Okay, we have different ideas probably out there on how many years. We'll leave that go for now, because I know you want to talk about blighted property as well. What do you think is something that can actually be done to deal with that everyone believes is a problem?
This is a quality of life issue. If you go to every single nook and cranny in Pennsylvania, you will see blight. Homes that are falling, boats on properties, homes boarded up, burned out. Now imagine if you get up the next morning, you're headed to work, your kids are headed to school, you're a retired couple just trying to enjoy your golden years, and now you have a property that is bringing down your real estate value and reducing your quality of life. That's just not okay. And what we found time and time again is that when we, in all throughout Pennsylvania, when we looked up who owns these properties, many times these are entities from out of state. New York LLC, New Jersey LLC. So you can't get to them. My bill allows for a name, an email address, a phone number who can provide for the upkeep of those properties and bring some much needed quality of life improvements to our communities.
All right, I think that'll wrap it up. We're going to talk about Elon Musk and Donald Trump with our political insiders. You can just sit back and enjoy that, because I know a lot of Democrats now are just watching this happen and going, okay. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, Representative.
Joel, thank you.
All right. And yes, we are talking about Trump and Musk. Is the bromance over? Our political insiders, they've been feuding at times. We'll see what they think about all this. Here we are, my favorite time of the week. The CBS 21 political insiders are here. Democratic strategist Mark Singal, Republican strategist Kevin Harley. And we are going to start with, we heard from Representative Lloyd Smucker. And he was talking about this big, beautiful bill and where he stands on this. The Congressional Budget Office has some massively different numbers than he has. How do we know what to go with here when we're trying to decipher what's the truth?
Well, Congressman Smucker made a good case from the Republican point of view, but he's wrong. The fact of the matter is that this big, ugly bill is going to explode the deficit by about $2.3 trillion. And in the simplest terms possible, it takes $1.5 trillion from poor people and gives it to very rich people.
That's not what he said, but I know what you're saying.
It's completely
it's
immoral.
Interpretation, and he hit his highlights, and you're hitting the other side and what they see. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I agree with Congressman Smucker, and the point that he made was that in 2017, when you had the Trump tax cuts, the CBO said the same thing. They were wrong then, and I think they're wrong now. Mark doesn't agree with this, but supply-side economics works. You reduce taxes, revenue will increase.
Yeah, I think he misheard my one question. Like, what does he need to go to? 3.5%? Right. And that is, I guess, what they're counting on here.
Well, you need 3.5 or 4% growth, and we might get there, and I hope we do.
Yeah.
But again, make no mistake, the transfer of wealth is to the very wealthy, and that's where you can have the savings. If you just simply phase that in a little slower or not give them that much money, you can take care of those 10 million people that are going to lose their health care.
And ideally, you would have a compromise. It doesn't seem we're in the compromise world anymore. It's all or nothing, and the only compromise is between Republicans. Let's get to what seems like the compromise is over. It is the bromance between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the most powerful person in the world, the richest person in the world. They're not used to losing battles or backing down. What's going to happen here?
I think, you do have a policy difference between Musk and Trump, and there's maybe some other things too with, Sam Altman, ChatGPT getting the deal in Saudi Arabia, and Musk's choice for NASA administrator being pulled by the Trump administration. So there's some of that going on, I think. But I think once we get through the reconciliation, I think you'll see Musk and Trump kind of come back together again. Trump has a history of this.
Oh, anybody can come back in the fold eventually.
Right. I mean, look at Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio.
Bannon.
His first two wives is a good example, too. So
okay.
They come back into the fold, and I think by this time next year, you'll see Elon and Trump.
Is there a Democratic strategy to this?
No, there's not a Democratic strategy. I think the Democrats are simply saying, wouldn't it be nice to have adults back in the White House instead of all this playground bickering back and forth? That is not healthy for the country, and it's kind of a disgrace.
Well, this did get in the back and forth. At one point, Elon Musk saying, you wouldn't even have won without me. And that got Donald Trump's ire. That maybe hit him where it hurts. But here was his reaction. He invoked Pennsylvania.
I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran. If you pick Shapiro or anybody else, I spoke to him recently about his house being set on fire, which was terrible. But if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania. I won it by a lot.
Quick answer, yes or no. Would he have won Pennsylvania without Musk's help, including all of his financial help?
It's very subjective. Listen, Musk helped tremendously in Pennsylvania, tremendously.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would not have won in Pennsylvania or the country without that infusion of about $290 million.
Well, we do know that the Republicans did win, and the Democrats are still trying to figure out why in some circles. The male vote, especially young male voters, definitely went the side of Republicans much more than in the past. So they've been holding these big conventions now talking about how do we get men back in the fold. Ironically, they held it in San Francisco, where some would say maybe it's not the most masculine place to hold it by some critics from the Republican side. What are they learning from this scenario? And is it really important to change this and get those guys back?
I think Democrats really do have to get their act together, and they have to figure out why that percentage of male vote drifted to the Republican Party. And you can't ignore it. I mean, it's real, and there was a good percentage that did. I don't know what that message is quite yet, because in my view, the Democrats have been the people for working families all these years, and the ones with the kind of programs that make life better for them.
Yeah.
They're losing it on kind of social grounds.
Right.
People are entrenched on these kind of almost prejudicial attitudes, and Democrats are being forced to kind of make a choice. Do we go that direction or do we not?
Yeah. Well, and the point is, if it's really, that far or not. I'm going to have to move along to this and let you go first on this one. The renaming of some would say DEI military vehicles. So the plan is to rename the USNS Harvey Milk, a fleet replenishment oiler named after the slain gay rights leader who was also a Navy veteran. Milk. There's other ones that are in there, civil rights leaders, and they're going to relook at all of this stuff and say, we don't want anything that was named after people for those reasons. What is your take on this?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, the Navy should be about the warrior ethos, and that is what this Pentagon is about. This is what this Trump administration is about. It's not about DEI or identity politics, which is obviously what naming of this naval ship was under the Biden administration. So I think it is a good move. Saw it with Fort Bragg as well. And I
the Thurgood Marshall, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Harriet Tubman.
It's a disgrace, because what you're doing, take a look at these people you're talking about. These are either black or social leaders or gay people, and it just shows the bias that this administration has toward anybody that doesn't look or think like them. It's a disgrace, and we should not be doing this.
Final word?
I completely disagree. It's about the warrior ethos, and that is what this administration is about.
Well, the one thing that's interesting, doing some research on this, there really is no hard and fast rule as to what folks can be named. So would you want Trump picking his own names for random things as well? That could be the thing. When there's no real rules, you may end up with the USS.
No, but everybody on this list has done something courageous or something important to history. And by invoking DEI to strip that away means that you're ignoring history, and you just want to whitewash history to your advantage. And that's a mistake. That's not America.
Well, what is America is looking at the past and the heroes that no one can dispute. We're going to do that next. We just had D-Day a couple days ago, and you were looking at some pictures from the past. World War II, this is the 28th Infantry Division of the PA National Guard, very influential. They got there right after D-Day, but helped win the day, the Battle of Normandy, and eventually these heroes have been regarded over time. Thoughts on D-Day looking back all these years?
Well, the 28th Division, just massive courage and a tremendous effort for world peace. But D-Day itself and that attack on Omaha Beach was phenomenal and literally saved the world.
Unbelievable.
And it was Pennsylvanians had a lot to do with it.
The Keystone Division was part of this group, and some of them are buried over there, and some of them did eventually get grave sites over here as well.
That's right. And we had our own Dick Winters from Easy Company that jumped in behind the lines. Just unbelievable courage and bravery and skilled soldiers.
We got to remember this on the big days, and I know that sometimes it's an afterthought or it's just a piece on your calendar you acknowledge, and now that some of these guys aren't around anymore, it's tough, but we got to take our time every year to remember.
Everybody should go to Normandy Beach.
That'd be great too.
And go to the American Cemetery on the top of Normandy.
Unbelievable.
It is stunning.
Certainly.
Worth the trip.
See you next week.